Hey everybody, I'm back. This next little section is going to deal with APA and citations. Know that the most easy and concrete thing that I was able to do when grading was to critique your bib information. And the reason that's easy is because it's very, very concrete and it's very, very outlined. There are specific right and wrong ways to do things. I am working under the assumption that all of you are working in APA style. This is the APA manual. I didn't put this down as a required text for this class because, honestly, all of the information that you probably need for citation purposes you can get online. If you go to apa.org, you can get really good concrete examples of things, and I don't want you to have to buy one more thing. APA stands for the American Psychological Association, and this is the standard style for social research, of which educational research falls. You should all be working in this style and get used to reading this style, because once you get a handle on APA style, you can start gleaning lots of information just by reading the bib citations. First, APA works to excise overt gender bias out of studies. If you've noticed, no first names are used when you're putting an author down. It's always the last name first, followed by initials. First and second initials if you have them, or just the first initial. Secondly, if there are multiple authors, the list of authors is ordered by the most important or highest percentage of work done on the article first, with contributing authors listed in order of importance of the study. Now, most authors follow a line of study or a line of research, such as if Smith J.J. might focus most of his research on something that does with something to do with oral perception, and Patel Y.Z. usually studies something or other to do with middle school instrumental programs. Now, once you find an author that does your thing, you probably figured out that I can start looking at all the things that that author did and see if I can get more and more information on that particular thing I'm interested in. But you can also start noticing the other people with whom he or she works. Now, the year of publication is the next thing that's listed in the bib. Now, I'll talk more about the year of publication in a little bit and what that means for your research, but for citation purposes, it's important to know that only the year, not the month, is included within parentheses after the author's name. So it'll end up being Smith, J.J., 2012. The next thing listed is the title of the article. In the overall scheme of things, the article is actually less important than the journal. I'm going to say that again. The article, from like a bibliography sense, is less important than the journal. Because while the journal is forever, if the journal is successful, it'll just keep publishing year after year after year. The article is really kind of the flavor of the month. Now, because of this, only the first word of the article gets capitalized, which feels wrong the first couple times you do it, and then you get used to it, and it's not so much. Now, directly after the title of the article, comes the journal title, and the journal is a really important piece of information. So all of the words in the journal, except for like small prepositions and such, get capitalized in the journal title. In addition, the journal title also gets listed in italic font. Now, keep in mind that any big, like, singular publication will also get italic font. So in APA, if you have a book, that also gets listed in italic font. Know that if, like, APA were a poker hand, you know, the articles, you know, it's a pair. But the journal is kind of like a flush, whereas a book is a straight. The journal outweighs a book. So a journal is going to have its title, like all of the words in the title, capitalized, where a book is going to be similar to an article insofar as it's italicized because it is like a work, but it only has the first word of the title capitalized, because books are inherently out of date. By the time they actually go to print, the information is already old. Whereas a journal, the information is brand new. That's one of the reasons why it gets published quarterly, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. So know that a journal trumps a book, in case you're like trying to see like what's more important on that. Where was I? That was a tangent, sorry. Oh, okay, so a journal gets, every word gets capitalized, and the entire thing gets italicized, and the volume number is part of the title. That's why Journal of Research in Music Education, Volume 23, is a completely different book and different title than Journal of Research in Music Education, Volume 57. That volume number matters. It's part of the book, or part of the title, so it actually gets the italic font with it. Now, volume number can give you insight in, and the volume number is contained within parentheses directly after the journal name. So it would be Journal of Research in Music Education, parentheses, 57. You don't have to put a VOL next to it. You don't have to put a number next to it. You just put the number in parentheses. Now, volume numbers can give you a lot of insight into how well established a journal is. The higher up a volume number, the longer the journal has been publishing. And there's lots of startup journals out there. So journals start up all the time. And there's a lot of journals that only have maybe like 1 to 5 volumes that ever existed, and then it went out of print. And that usually is an indication that they ran out of leadership or money or relevance, whereas an article published in a journal that's on its 80th volume has a lot of weight, as this journal is well established and isn't going away. Now, a volume of a journal is usually broken up into 2 to 4 issues, depending on whether the journal is published biannually or published quarterly. Now, the issue number is not part of the title, so it doesn't get italicized. Traditionally, many journals on the second issue of a volume would pick up on the last page number used in the previous issue. So if the first issue had articles that ran from page 1 to 79, let's say, issue 2 would start at 80 and go on to wherever it goes. With the idea being, once it was all done, those 2 to 4 issues would be bound together in a book. Back in the old days, before it was like all on the internet, we would walk to the library and pull a book down off the shelf, and that volume would be bound together. So that journal, even though it had like 4 little separate publications, would be one book, and that's where those issue numbers come from. Where was I here? Now, because of this reason, the issue number is treated more like a page number, and it's in regular font. So the issue number is listed after the volume number, and after the issue number, the page numbers are listed. Know that the issue number can also give you insight as to how scholarly the journal is. For example, MEJ, Music Educators Journal, is a monthly magazine. It is a scholarly magazine, and it is a journal, and it does have peer review people, but it's a much lighter reading style. It tends to give information that is much more practical based and has more opinion to it, because they actually want you to use it. It's not just objectively presenting things. And it gets published every month of the school year. So MEJ is always going to have issues 1 through 9 for every volume it puts out. So if you are looking just at citations and you see something that has an issue number of 8 or 9, that gives you indication that this is probably going to be an easier read than what you're usually used to seeing for scholarly articles, and it probably will be chock full of practical examples for you. Okay. Now, the last thing in the citation is a new millennium edition. In the old days, like pre-1999, we would, as I was said, walk to the library on our little feet and go to the stacks in the library and pull down the actual volume. I know. Now, pretty much everything is online now, and as well you know, the glorious internet is tempestuous with change. Tempestuous. Tempestuous. I don't even know if that's the right word. I may have just made that word up. Tempestuous. Tempestuous? That might be it. Okay. Now, many articles now, when you're getting them online, will have a DOI number, which stands for Digital Object Identifier. This is a tracking number of this particular article in the event that a website gets moved or consumed by another business or unsupported or whatever. That actual object of the PDF of the article has this tracking number on it. If there is a DOI number, it should be included after the page number of your citation. So similarly, if there's no DOI number, it oftentimes has a stable URL, and it will actually say stable URL in there, which should be included after the page number preceded by the phrase retrieved from. The DOI does not need a retrieved from. It just needs the DOI and the number. If you're actually cutting and pasting the HTML link, you have to put retrieved from and put that stable link. If it does not have, it has neither the DIO or the stable link, use the link that you're using, knowing that it might disappear. So that's another thing to keep in mind. When you're seeing research, if it has a DOI number, chances are good that it's pretty well established. If it has a stable URL, it's fairly well established. If you don't know how you're ever going to return to this piece, it's not very well established. And that gives you some idea of the hierarchy of how important and how relevant this information is going to be.